Welcome to Part 1 of the presentation for Module 2.3, Accessibility. I'm Kathy Cox, the Director of Technology Enhanced Instruction. The sources for the material in this presentation are the 2001 Distance Education Accessibility Guidelines published by the State Chancellor's Office and the College of the Redwoods DE Faculty Handbook. Both of them are linked in Module 2.3. Before we begin, I want to start by explaining why we are including this module in the OTLT. As noted in the 2011 Distance Education Accessibility Guidelines, it is important for faculty to be aware that as they attempt to develop robust, media-rich, and dynamic distance education courses, many emerging tools and technologies that seem to enhance online education can actually create barriers to access for students taking those courses. While this module will provide basic information about accessibility, I strongly encourage you to download and skim through the entire publication so that you can refer back to it as you design your own courses. One of the primary concepts of distance education is that DE offers students learning anytime, anywhere. Therefore, all DE resources must be designed to afford students with disabilities maximum opportunity to access distance education resources anytime, anywhere, without the need for outside assistance. In order to accomplish this, DE courses, including their content, their materials, and their resources, must be designed and delivered in such a way that the level of communication and the course-taking experience are the same for students with or without disabilities. One of the fundamental ways of accomplishing this is what is called universal design. Educational research has come to acknowledge the concept of universal design as a paradigm shift, representing an all-inclusive approach to designing barrier-free environments. Universal design incorporates those accessibility features into the very beginning stages of course design. A good way of thinking about this is to think of public buildings that are constructed now with ramps, lever-style door handles, and bathrooms that accommodate wheelchairs, and then compare them with buildings constructed in the 60s, prior to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Everyone benefits from the accessibility designed into the newer buildings. Their universal design builds in broad usability for many people and alleviates the need for numerous individual accommodations. The same principle holds true as you design your course. By incorporating the principles of universal design, you are making your course better for everyone, not just students who have a particular need for specific accommodations. It will benefit students with a range of learning styles and preferences as well. Real Connections, Making Distance Learning Accessible to Everyone is a video from the Do It Center of the University of Washington, which gives an overview of some of the issues disabled students face as well as general guidelines for making courses accessible. I strongly recommend that you watch the video either now or after you finish the presentation. It's worth noting that the link provided at the beginning of this module in Canvas takes you to the video at the University of Washington, not to the YouTube version linked here. If you go to the UW website, you will see that the content of this video is available in a variety of different formats. We'll be talking about some of them later in the modules. Accessibility is a matter of legal requirements. As the Americans with Disabilities Act states, students who have disabilities often have difficulty completing certain tasks on the internet, such as listening, reading, or typing. They may find video conferencing and chat rooms challenging. It is important to understand what students may require in the form of assistive tools, such as screen readers for the visually impaired that require text tag modifications of images, or captioning for the hearing impaired, and that these accommodations need to be in place prior to the student requesting them. This is the basic requirement that is addressed by universal design. The website listed on this slide, http www.ada.gov/PCA toolkit/chap5toolkit.htm is a good source of information on how the ADA affects us in designing distance education courses. The legal foundations for accessibility come from both federal and state law and regulations. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and the California Government Code, Section 11135, are all incorporated into Title V, Section 55200, the governing regulations for the California Community College System, and that section explicitly makes those requirements applicable to all distance education offerings. Community colleges are required to provide accessibility for persons with disabilities in the development, procurement, maintenance, or use of electronic or information technology by a community college using any source of state funds. Two pieces of legislation that you may hear references to are Section 504 and Section 508. These refer to sections of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and along with California's own set of accessibility requirements, they mean that all courses must be designed prior to course delivery in such a way that they keep in mind students who have special needs and require assistive technology. But there are some differences between the two sections. Section 504 specifies that institutions receiving federal funding have to accommodate individuals with special needs so that they can have equal access to learning facilities and materials. Compliance with Section 504 begins with the individual approaching the institution. At College of the Redwoods, this is through DSPS, and requesting special assistance. So students getting assistance under this law will have let us know in advance that they need certain accommodations, and DSPS will let you know before the course starts what needs to be done. Section 508 is different. It specifies that institutions have the responsibility to provide resources that are accessible to everyone, whether or not a person has requested accommodations. Electronic resources are included in this requirement. This means that the creation of websites, online materials, and online courses has to be done in a way that follows the principles of universal design so that they meet the needs of everyone. For example, you might have a student with a hearing impairment, not deaf, but perhaps they have trouble understanding certain sound frequencies. The student might try to take the class without accommodations and then discover partway through the semester that they aren't able to understand as well as they should without captions. In cases such as this, you won't know before the course starts that accommodation is needed, which is why for a distance education course, those accommodations have to be built in from the very beginning. Finally, the state has some additional requirements for accessibility and DE courses. The first is that students should be able to use their preferred means of assistive technology. The frequency, amount, and quality of communication with students should be equal, regardless of their disability. Course materials should be updated following guidelines for regular, effective contact. And finally, course materials and resources should incorporate accessibility guidelines internally, that is, within their framework, thereby reducing the need for outside assistance for students with disabilities. That's the end of Part 1. In Part 2, we'll be looking at the accessibility guidelines for different specific types of media that you might use in your classes and how you can make your class more accessible to all students.